Welcome to Manhwa Recaps, spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. The manhwa starts off by introducing us to a lab. We see people running down a corridor and a man kicks open a door. His name is Hong Shokyoung. One of his team members yell, telling him that there are kids inside. We see glass shattering as Hunter Hong asks the kids if they are alright. He smiles warmly, saying they can come out now. He picks up one of the kids asking if he's hurt anywhere. The kid looks over to see one of the scientists on the floor, with a voice full of content. He says the chief got what he deserved, begging for his life on the floor suits him. Hong asks the kid what his name is. The kid thinks for a second, asking what he needs to do to make this man mad, so he tells him that his name is number 12. Hong looks slightly annoyed, asking if that's really his name, and then sets number 12 back down, then kicks the chief in the stomach, while yelling at him, and then continues beating the hell out of him. 12 admires the power, saying it's one that cannot be looked down on. We hear a voice yelling at Hong to stop. He nervously asks the inspector what brings her here. Gassed out, she says that she knew he'd be doing something crazy like this again, and to let the man go. She sighs, saying she appreciates his help, but he makes things harder when he acts like this. 12 asks her if she is his boss. She says no, but she is the one who scolds him when he does something bad. 12 says that's what a boss is, isn't it? And tells her how the lab chief always scolds the other members. And how he hates the kids. She angrily looks over, saying that she'll make sure to scold the bad man. 12 says she looks weak, asking if she is a hunter. She says no, and that she isn't strong, but he shouldn't judge a book by its cover. And that there are plenty of ways to scold someone other than beating them up, just like she did Hunter Hong. Hong catches a stray from her. Then 12 asks her what he has to do to become like her. She pats his head, saying that he needs to study hard and pass an exam. And then make his way up the corporate ladder. 12 is amazed by the overwhelming power that hunters display. And the power of somebody that rules them. This moment shaped his life. We get a 19-year time skip and are taken to the ability management agency ABBA. We see an older version of 12 telling people about dungeons reaching a higher threat level. But everyone looks bored and they're not paying attention to him at all. He says even if they're low-ranked dungeons, if the interior is unstable, the threat level will rise. He tells them to wake up and listen so they aren't lost when they get there. The hunters sit up. He continues telling them that Team 2 will be in charge of the B2 ranked dungeon and asks if there's any complaints. A woman says no. He says Team 1 can take the Tian dungeon. Teams 3 and 4 are resting because they just went into a dungeon recently. And that another guild will take care of the mountain dungeon. He tells them that they've prepared the equipment, so double check that nothing is missing. He looks at his watch, asking if they have any further questions, but nobody says a damn word. He says thought so and tells them to get lunch and tells Team 2 to get on standby. As everybody goes to leave, he sees one of the hunters, Yujun, is not moving, asking her what's wrong. She asks if he remembers the dungeon she told him about. He asks if she's talking about the one inside of Bangidong, saying it was only a D6 ranked dungeon and that they only send people on raids once they reach level 2. She tells him that she has a bad feeling about it, and he sighs, saying that if they close dungeons based off feelings they would get railed by the media, and she shouldn't abuse her powers because she's an S-rank hunter. She barks back, saying that he's abusing his power, calling him a Nepo baby. He asks her if she's ever seen a more capable and skilled Nepo baby. She claps back, saying that she would have fired him a long time ago if he wasn't so damn good at his job. He jokingly says that he hopes she doesn't hit him. She shifts to a serious tone, saying that she really feels bad about this dungeon. He tells her that it's too bad that he's no longer on business hours and not to contact him. Then closes the door, laughing, saying that she couldn't contact him anyways if she's inside of the dungeon. She seems really happy. We learn that 12's real name is Wu Vihai, J for short. It jumps to 2 days later inside of Busan, and some women are asking about a watch. Jay says that it is a masterpiece created by the Mana Research Lab, but it's still in the testing phase, so there are only 2 in the entire world. The girls say he must be a great hunter then. He says he has a license, but nah, he works at ABBA. He tells them that he is a direct affiliate of the agency director. They say that they recognize the director, saying that he's talking about Hunter Hong. Jay says that it's embarrassing to say, but he is his father. They are surprised, but he tells them that his adoptive father. And how he was in an accident when he was a child and lost his parents. And that Hong saved him and adopted him, so he's been working hard to repay that debt. Then he laughs while telling them not to think of him as a Nepo baby, as he's worked hard for his position. They say of course, since Hong is known to be fair. Jay sips his drink, saying that was a complete lie. And he's glad that he has a hunter's license to use it like this. One of the girls asks him why he came here, and he says that he is on vacation to celebrate his promotion. He didn't want to, but was forced to take time off. One of the girls says it's never good to be working all the time, and they're also here on vacation. He asks if he's getting in the way, and they say no, then ask if he can show them what he did earlier. He stretches his hand out and they ask what it is called. He calls it the hunter. I am not reading all of that. It's called a mana watch. They say that it's not just a simple watch, asking how he uses it. He says that it recognizes mana patterns, so only he can use it, and then opens up a status window from it, which shows the dungeon's threat levels. One of the girls is confused, asking Jay why one of the dungeon's threat levels are suddenly climbing. The blue status window shifts to red to show that the dungeon inside of Bangidong is at a threat level of 0. They then get alerts on their phone saying that there is a dungeon break. And they begin to panic. Jay gets a call on his phone and someone's telling him that it's bad. He says he saw asking about the Bangidong dungeon. Jay says he doesn't think it'll be bad since it's just a D rank dungeon. But the person on the phone tells him that it's not a D rank, as half of the district was already wiped out right after it breaking. Jay's heart sinks as he is full of disbelief. The person on the phone says that Hong is on his way right now. Jay tells the person to calm down and he'll be on his way, saying to send a helicopter for him. They say alright and to please hurry. It jumps to him inside of the helicopter and he says there's no way half of the district would be gone. But it should be fine by the time he gets there as Hong is going. He sighs, saying just when he started his vacation, and then his watch gives off a notification and he wonders why it's going off. The helicopter pilot then tells him that there's something wrong and to look below, as we see monsters all outside. There's some Tentai monsters, weird eyeball dudes and a bunch of goblins. Then a new notification appears. As every dungeon in the nation has broke open. Jay realizes that they're screwed. He gets more alerts on his phone saying that the dungeon breaks aren't happening only in Korea but worldwide. And that the hunters who went on the raid with Hong have not been heard from. Jay realizes that they won't be able to return to Busan, so they should fly around and look for survivors. Then it jumps to him smacking a wolf across its face and then stabbing it in the head. We see that there are multiple bodies strung out along the road behind him. He frantically opens his status window on the watch to check on Hong, but it says that his vitals cannot be tracked. He starts to have feelings of panic, wondering if Hong is really dead, saying that there's no way. Jay says that he just wanted a simple future. He wanted to push all the annoying tasks onto others and live a comfortable life. He struggled a ton to achieve this. Yet now it's all ruined, as he desperately searches for a survivor. As he's walking, he hears coughing from behind and turns around. And we see Yejun, who he calls Auntie, and she says she told him not to call him that while holding onto her stomach as she's bleeding out. He asks her what happened here and she says that the centipede that came out of the Bangidong dungeon caused all this. He pops the cork off of a potion and she says, that pricey potion won't work here. He tells her that he won't know until he tries and starts pouring it on her. She says that she warned him, but he ignored her hunter instinct. He says there's nothing less trustworthy than a hunter's instinct, and she laughs, saying he's not wrong. He throws the empty potion away. She tells him that she's done for, reaching into her pocket, and then pulls out a dog tag saying it belongs to Hong. Saying surely he knows that he's dead. She brought it just in case, but she's glad she did. He asks why she's glad. She replies saying that as his son he should hold on to it. He tells her that he's not even his real son, and she says that he should at least give him a proper funeral. He says okay, but tells her that he doesn't want to give her one too, so don't die. She goes to ask why he's always joking around, but she can see that he has a serious expression on his face, as he sadly asks her not to die. We see her hand trembling and she says that she can't control it. She's lucky to have lived this long. She looks off to the side, calling out to him, asking if he remembers when he used to follow her around and call her big sister, saying how he used to be so cute back then. But now he's just a brat. She tries to tell him to look behind for her sword, but he tells her to shut up, saying that he has more potions. He starts to cry, saying he'll call her big sis again, so please just shut up. She tells him that she knows he's using a spear because of Hong, but it's still good to take her sword. Then she musters up all of her energy and smiles, telling him to make it out alive. And then her body goes limp in front of Jay. He closes her eyes, asking how he's meant to survive in this world. Then stands up, picking her sword up off the floor. And in a broken voice says that he hates this. At the Ability Management Agency, we see a giant centipede's corpse. Jay walks up saying that he expected this. And how being a hunter is a very dangerous job. But it's a job for the strong, saying it's crazy to see how many corpses there are here just to kill one centipede. Even the strongest hunter died, leaving nothing behind but a dog tag. He gets lost in thought, wondering what to do now. He wonders if he should find another survivor, but says there might not be any to begin with. A blue energy starts to envelop his sword. He raises it screaming and then attacks the centipede's corpse, creating a giant shockwave. The corpse completely vanishes, and Jay is puzzled, wondering where the hell it just went. We see a golden light as there is a clock. He picks it up, wondering if this came from the centipede, saying he's never heard of a monster dropping items before. After he picks it up, the clock says verification, and starts the talk about initiating an emergency procedure. The clock tells him to select a date and he is confused what it's yapping about. It keeps asking him if he would like to execute, as it's failing to initiate protocol. He wonders what it needs a date for and what it's trying to do. The clock continues. Annoyed, he asks what the hell it wants. Then it starts to give warnings, as a giant shadow looms over him. He turns, wondering if it's another centipede, but realizes that this is much stronger, as the energy is more overwhelming than the centipedes. We see a giant hand on one of the skyscrapers, as the clock tells him that he has a 0% chance of survival. In a panic, he tells the clock to execute whatever protocol it's going on about. It bugs out, trying to confirm his identity, and says identity blank confirmed, and then initiates the emergency protocol, and then goes to check his verification, as he sees the giant creature come out from seemingly nowhere. The clock continues bugging out with the verification and says failure blank to execute the savior. Then checks his qualification, saying that he is ineligible. Jay looks up at the monster, making eye contact with it, wondering if running away is even possible from this. The clock continues, initiating the final sequence. It confirms his eligibility. He realizes that escaping from this thing won't be possible. The clock says blank possibility verified. The world is bound for destruction, calling him the final survivor. Jay yells, saying he doesn't care and just to get him out of here. It confirms his desperate order, saying that it's moving him to a random time. He hears faint voices as they call out to him, and a woman yells, saying to wake up. He catches her hand before she slaps him. She apologizes, saying that he wouldn't wake up regardless of what they did. We see a bunch of students and he sits up, confused about what's going on. The girl says that they assume he's a hunter because he has a sword. He is confused, saying that the whole world has been destroyed and wonders where he is, curious as to why they have the Hunter Academy's old uniform on. We see the girl who woke him up is named Yu-hyun. He glances around the room, spotting that the date is 2024, and is shocked as this is 20 years in the past. One of the students angrily calls out to him. We learn his name is Yun-wook, and he tells his friend to let go of him. Jay recognizes the name and looks over. Yun-wook tells him that they don't have time for him to lock in. A roar cuts him off. Jay quickly jumps off from the floor and heads over to the window. He looks down, wondering why of all the years it would take him here, as a black buffalo herd is seen below the window. He says that of the 46 people in this building, only 5 will live. Jay begins to wonder what's going on. He starts to recall everything that's led up to this moment. All of the corpses, Joan dying, Hong's death, along with the mysterious clock from the centipede. He wonders if he's really returned to the past. He says he published a paper about dungeon breaks as an undergrad, so he understands it well. He explains how right before the development of magic measurement devices, they were managed manually. There was a dungeon in the middle of Seoul that was managed well, but still, dungeons were unpredictable. One day it was calm, the next day it could explode. He explains how there was a guild that didn't want to lose out on an S-rank dungeon, and they falsely reported it as a B rank. It ended up breaking, and there were a ton of casualties because the guild responsible for it lied about the rating. The nearby high schoolers who were training to become hunters tried to protect the civilians, but since they were just students, they weren't able to handle the dungeon break. So there were only 2 students who survived and 3 civilians. This is the incident that he is currently a part of now. He realizes that he still has June's sword in his hand, so he's time traveled rather than regressing. He's confident in escaping the situation alone, but he doesn't want to leave the students behind. He asks them how long it has been since the dungeon broke, and they're confused. He asks them if they haven't learned about dungeon breaks yet. Hyun says that they came here to learn about them today. He says they better start learning then, and ask when it broke. One of the other girls says that it was about 4 hours ago. Jay tells her he doesn't need abouts, he needs exact numbers. Hyun tells him it has been 3 hours and 50 minutes, and that they lost communication 2 hours ago, but they did hear that there were hunters preparing to attack the boss. Jay says that Hong was a part of this attack team, and he blamed himself for only attacking the boss without noticing the students, so he won't let that happen again. Hyunwook says not to be rude, but wonders who Jae is. He asks how they're meant to trust somebody that they don't even know, asking if he has a hunter license, and to show it to him. Jae tells him that he lost it, but the real reason is because his license says 2031, so he can't whip it out. He says now that he thinks about it, he has no form of identification here, so he can't even go check out the dungeon if he managed to get out. He sighs, saying that he just needs to prove he's a hunter, and then releases his magic power to show them. Hyunwook says that he believes he's a hunter, and some of the other civilians wonder if they're actually able to escape, and then comments about how there is a student named Lee Sung-jeon. He's the youngest child of one of the world's biggest conglomerates, and we see him sitting in the back. Jae recognizes him, saying that he was highly treasured, and after his death, his family helped to maintain the school, establishing the Ability Management Agency, promoting Hong to the agency director. Jae wonders what will happen if Sung-jeon lives. He says even if he doesn't have an identity, he'll create a scenario where he has to save Sung-jeon from danger, becoming a hero, so they can't criticize him. Then he tells them they'll all be going to the city hall. An older man yells, asking if he's out of his mind, saying how far City Hall is from here. Jae gets annoyed and tells the man to listen, but he thinks to himself about how in the survivor testimony, they brought up this old man and how he didn't listen to the students. So he bluntly asks the man if he wants to die. The old man panicked asks if he's threatening him. Jae tells him to shut up, saying that it'll be hard to even save himself here. But he doesn't want to leave the kids behind. So he will lend a hand. He tells the students that if they want to leave by themselves he will not stop them. But Hyun says that she doesn't want to leave anyone behind. Jae makes sure the old man hears this, and tells the old man that if he doesn't want to help, then to just leave. The old man awkwardly says that's not the case. Jae then says he needs a map asking if anybody knows the area well. A woman tells him that she can draw it fairly well. And then later we see him with the map. He highlights where they are, and where the dungeon is, saying that it's been 2 hours since the raid started. The boss should be driven to where the mountain is, and that the boss is a minotaur. The students panic because a minotaur is an S-ranked monster, and that the mountains are actually pretty close to them. Jae tells him that the buffalo probably followed the boss to the mountain, so the only monsters here would be the buffalo who got separated from the herd. He then draws a circle on the map asking if anybody knows what it is. Hyun tells him that it is the outer part of the blockade, which is a defense line, so monsters can't spread elsewhere. He says that's right, and since City Hall is the headquarters, they just need to get there and they will surely survive. Somebody else suggests they just wait for the boss to be defeated, saying that they should just wait, because once they defeat the boss the dungeon break will end. Jae shakes his head saying that the Minotaur is a dictator. If he says to gather they gather. If he orders them to hunt, they hunt. But even if the boss disappears the monsters won't. They'll just keep loitering around here, and that they'll still be starving. Then asks if there are any more disagreements with the plan. Nobody says anything and he says moving on. Then ask if there are any mages who can draw runes. We see one of the students drawing on Sung-jeon's forehead. Jae tells them that monsters are sensitive to mana, so to make sure they draw the runes well. One of the girls says that she's never heard of something like this before. Jae understands since they're runes from the future after all. He explains that when it's on their foreheads it hides mana that's connected to them, but it does not hide mana that's been cast already. He makes sure they all know how to activate the runes, saying that they need to fill their hand with mana and touch the rune. As soon as he leaves to activate them he makes sure to adjust Sung-jeon's. To make his mana weaker instead, he tells them that he's going to release his mana now and lure the monsters in a loop around the neighborhood. When he passes by again, they should start running, and then he will send them away, and catch up to them. He leaps out of the window, saying that it's time, and then lands on the floor by the buffaloes. He starts running saying that he wishes he had a cape, so he could be more like a matador. After a bit the students and the teachers head out of the building. Wondering who Jae really is, Glasses, I don't know his name, says that surely he's one of the hunters who came to raid the dungeon, since he knew about the boss. The girl says that it's possible as he is a knower. Hyun suggests that he probably tripped while driving the boss away from the city. Sung-jeon says if he fainted while doing that, isn't he low-key ass, but they remind him that the boss is a minotaur. Hyun says the only thing they can do right now is trust him, as he did manage to lure the monsters away. The old man calls out to all the students, saying that he's ready to run with them, and tells them to all be careful. As they talk, Glasses tell them that he's on his way. We see Jae hauling absolute cheeks as the buffalo are hot on his ass. He swings his sword, doing what I assume is concealing his mana. The buffalo all start to slowly walk past him. Hyunwook realizes that it's time to go and they all start to run. As they start to leave, they recall his strategy. The martial arts hunters will take the lead, while mages will cast shields on both sides of them. If there are any stragglers, just block them while Hyunwook takes care of them, and the civilians just need to run for their lives. He got Sung Jian and Hyun to stand in the back, as one of them is a healer and the other is a swordsman. Sung Jian quickly feels breathing down his neck, as he turns to see a buffalo whispering something sweet into his ear. We see the buffalo's head getting kicked to the side as Jay flies in. Sung Jian sees this and Jay turns telling him to run. Sung Jian starts calling out to him but Jay tells him just to run away and he begins to unleash his mana drawing their aggro. It cuts to Jay standing on a rooftop looking down at the buffalo. He wonders where the hell they keep coming from, and sighs saying that it was a struggle getting out of there. He didn't expect it to be so rough. He explains to us how it happened. He leaked his mana on purpose to gather the mobs, then slightly modified Sung Jian's rune to put him in danger. Right before the buffaloes attacked him, he made a sacrificial scene so he would be recognized as a hero. In the end it worked perfectly, but now he doesn't know what to do. He says if he's really time traveled, that means the 10-year-old version of him is still here. He doesn't want it to end up back to the future where he erases himself from changing history. He also brings up how the clock mentioned that the world is guaranteed to be doomed, saying that it must be related to the Bangidong dungeon. Then he realizes something, saying that his mana watch should still work, as long as he supplies it with mana. He starts typing away and seems relieved, after seeing something on the watch. He sees the date saying he wondered why it was so specific. Turns out there was a reason for it. It's the clock telling him to change the fate of this world. He hears a scream which snaps him out of his daydreaming and he looks over to see the Minotaur chasing some hunters down the street. The hunters are complaining about how many mobs there are and say the boss must have called them. Jay says that he should not intervene, as they originally defeated the boss anyways. Also Hong is here and we see him running in. Jay says that all of the legendary hunters have gathered here so it's like a VIP seat. We hear a girl say here we go, as she speaks enchantment table, shooting out a root wrapping around the boss's foot. Jay recognizes it as the Archmage Kim came in since her magic is unique. He says it was completely lost after her death, but then wonders how exactly she died. He decides he should keep her alive as she will be helpful in the future. He says the dungeon shouldn't break until 20 years from now, also that just having a couple S ranks in the future wasn't enough for the centipede. So if he could spare those that were destined to die like the students it would be beneficial. He needs to find the dungeon where the person who lit Soul on fire is hiding as well. He seems excited with his own plan, saying that it will help to a comfortable retirement. We hear Hong yelling done, as he slices the leg off of the Minotaur that has been wrapped up by Kaimin. She raises her staff into the air casting another spell, called Eliminating Vines. She slams her staff into the ground and vines start to sprout out wrapping around the Minotaur tying it down. The Minotaur struggles to stay on his 2 feet and grabs onto a nearby building for support. He pushes himself off of the building and swings his hammer forward at the hunters. Jay decides that it's time for him to head out to City Hall. One of the hunters tells Hong to cut the other leg off of the boss. He says bet. Chaimin continues her spell, keeping the boss unable to move, as someone in the back is holding onto the vines like a rope. Bro is on the juice. We see Hong's spear stab into the boss's leg. It groans and falls over as the vines are unable to keep it upright. Jay sees a shadow falling over him as he looks up, to see the boss going first towards him. Hong looks over and spots Jay behind the Minotaur. One of the other hunters wonder if Jay is a citizen but Hong says he's wielding something. Jay strikes the boss with his blue mana, lighting the boss on fire. Hong and Chai-min are surprised, as the boss gets burned, turning into charcoal. From behind it, Jay tells everyone to continue what they were doing, paying him no mind. But Hong and Chai-min wonder who he is. Jay steps out from behind the boss, saying that he's just a simple passerby. It cuts to him inside of the interrogation room and the officer says they took his weapon. But he's still suspicious as he has no form of identification. Hong says that's okay and he has something to ask him. The officer leaves, telling him to be careful. They have an awkward WWE stare down. While laughing, Hong tells him that he cut the camera off so they can talk. He says they should start with their names and he introduces himself. Jay says it's still surreal to see him so young. He wonders if Hong will save him a year from now, then adopt him 2 years after. Jay tells him his name. Hong slides a piece of paper forward asking if he knows what this is. Jay is surprised, saying that it's the drawing that covered the laboratory walls. Hong could tell from his reaction that he understood what it was and then laughs, saying he just wants to talk. Hong asks Jae if he was nervous. Jae is just confused, asking if he's that easy to read. Hong nods, saying that if things went according to plan, they would have met in a better situation. And says that he made it out safe, exactly like he heard from the blue mana, fire, and the sword. Jae is confused, asking if he had a stroke. Hong then tells Jae that he is the teacher that Kim was talking about. Jae wonders if he's mistaking him for a whistleblower from the lab. Hong tells him that he was worried since they lost contact, but that he's already agreed to help them escape, so he had prepared an identity for them on this side. While he starts talking about it, Jae says this is a very good opportunity for him to get an actual identity. Hong says that he will call him Jae from now on. Jae realizes that he's not actually lying since he is from the laboratory and an insider, so he will be able to cover pretty well. Hong tells him that he will be working under him. Jae asks if it's for surveillance. Hong tells him that he can think of it that way. Then stretches his hand out, saying he looks forward to working with him. Jae thinks about how he ended up working under Hong again, saying that he is not his foster father or the agency director, but rather, just a hunter now. It cuts to a week later and Jae is visibly annoyed. Hong asks him how his stay has been, asking if it has been okay. Jae says there's no way it would be fine when he's been stuck here for a week. Hong laughs, saying that he visits him every day though, so surely it's fine. Jae shows that he has a glorified prison anklet on his foot. Hong says that he should try to see the positive side. He managed to escape and now he's free. He said that there was a lot he wanted to do. Jae says that he's the one who wanted to do it and calls him Mr. Hong tells him to call him uncle instead, then ask him if he remembers the 5 students that he saved. Then tells him that they are actually his students. He says he also heard that he's the one who baited the buffalo away and they were able to easily dispatch them, since they were grouped up, or else the damage could have been worse. Jae says that he's gotten it wrong but he doesn't want to correct him. Hong says that all that matters was the results were good and the kids are safe as well, thanking him. Jae starts feeling himself, saying it was nothing. Hong then says that he was thinking about something. Jae realizes that him thinking is not a good thing. Hong says that he knows the skill level of his students the best, so it would have been difficult for them to save even themselves, but Jae also saved them and the citizens. So everyone would have died if it had not been for him. Hong says that all the kids were crying, begging him to find Jae, so he puts some thought into it. Jae says he thinks way too damn much. Hong puts an employment form on the table, saying to teach them, as it'll be too conspicuous if he follows him around the dungeons. But if he works as a teacher it'll be a good cover. Jae thinks about teaching the kids, saying that he understands how deep the bond is between a disciple and their master, and that there were several people including June who consider Hong their teacher. It would be a good thing to create a strong connection with them, securing his future, also to help save the world. But he doesn't want to reveal that thought right now. He asks Hong why he would teach the kids when he can't use mana, saying that Mr. would be a better candidate. Hong corrects him, saying uncle. Jae says my bad. Hong laughs, saying that it would be easy to teach them how to fight but the problem is magic. Then says regarding the runes that hide mana. Then asks if he made them himself. Jae says he should have just kept quiet, asking if he's meant to teach the kids about runes. Hong says it doesn't matter whether or not he made them, he just needs to teach the kids about them. Jae says he thought he was going to teach them how to raid dungeons, but it would be too suspicious for an illegal awakened to know a lot about them. They then have an ace attorney court battle, about how runes are not magic, and how Jae's not suited for teaching. But Hong says that he knows he will fit right in. Jae wonders if he should just say he made the runes and get them patented, but decides that would be immoral. Then second guesses himself, saying that if he spreads the knowledge of them, he can save more people. Hong starts laughing, saying that he can tell he is deep in thought, but knows he is going to do it anyways. Jae sighs, saying that it's for the kids. He looks down at the paper while Hong explains that he will be listed as a guild member, but since he is not doing raids there are no other incentives. So he just gets paid his base monthly salary of minimum wage. Jae double checks the paper, while Hong laughs, saying that he'll just be getting 93% of that during his probationary period. Also, they don't have vacation since it's less than 5 people, but they still take off public holidays. Jae curls up the paper, saying this is a damn scam. It jumps again to 2 days later, and we see them in a van. Hong compliments the sword, saying that it recognizes the owner, asking if it's his. Jae replies, saying that it's somebody else's. Hong asks if he stole it, but Jae says if he did, he would have been burned. Hong says that makes sense. Jae says that the sword actually used to hate him, but it understands that June gave it to him before dying. Hong asks Jae if he's mad that he didn't return it to him. Jae says no, he wouldn't have been able to use it anyways, because of his anklet. They banter a little bit. Hong smiles, saying that his school does not allow blades anyways, so he can't use it either. Also, his classes won't require weapons. Jae says he could also just be blunt about not wanting a suspicious man to have a weapon around his students. Hong asks why he's so pessimistic. Jae sighs, looking out the window, saying he didn't deny it, then is completely taken aback, as they are going into the mountains. Jae wonders if he's going to be taken out back and executed. Hong tells him that this area is restricted from development due to nearby dungeons, but that is what makes it perfect for raising hunters. The van comes to a stop, as we see what can only be described as Minecraft starter houses. Hong says it's just a bit shoddy. Jae says that shoddy is an overstatement. This is straight ass. Jae asks him if he has to stay here for a year. Hong's eyes sparkle like a magical girl's, as he says, every journey starts with the first step. Then he laughs at his own joke, welcoming him to Hunter High School. In one of the rooms, Hong tells everybody that Jae will be teaching them about runes. Hong says surely some of them recognize him, saying not to be mean to him. Yun Wook raises his hand, saying that he remembers Jae using a sword rather than magic. Hong says that you don't have to be a mage to use runes. It was hard to get him to be a teacher, and this is what they agreed upon. Glasses ask him if they are going to learn the mana hiding runes, or if it will be new ones. Hong says that it will be the new ones. And he should be of great help to them. So to pay attention to his lessons. Glasses says surely it's not okay for him to teach this stuff. Hong says if it wasn't, he would not be teaching here, asking if he does not want to learn about runes. Glasses says he does, since he finds them awesome. The entire time, Sung Jian has been going pog crazy. One of the students asks Hong if only mages can participate in the lesson. Hong says no, but they can choose if they want to take his lesson or not. Sung Jian finally asks if Jae was hurt from back then or not, saying that he was really worried about him. Hyun also says she was worried. All of the students that were there say they asked Hong about it, but he would not tell them anything. They all were worried about him. Jae says that all of these kids are so wholesome, and they are so different from how they will be in the future. And how in the future, one of these kids will be stabbed in the back and left for dead inside of a dungeon. Then he is shocked, wondering what is wrong with Park Seon, saying that she was normal last time he saw her. And it has only been 10 days since the incident. So how did she become the witch Seon that he knows? It flashbacks to Glasses telling Seon to look at the rune he drew. She tells him that she doesn't think there should be a line this long, and he says she's right. He corrects it, saying it is hard for him, but she makes it seem easy. She says that her grandpa taught her when she was young, then gets him to draw Yun Wook's, and she will draw Sung Jian's. Glasses says that he can do it if she is tired. But she proudly tells him not to worry as she has more experience being a mage, and they will need him to shield for them later on. It turns out that her grandfather used to say that arrogance ruins everything. She thinks that the rune she drew on Sung Jian did not work. Her grandpa's words start to echo through her head, drowning out everybody's voices. Which is what led to her drastic personality shift. It takes us back to his original timeline of 2044, inside of the Ability Management Agency. We see Seon greeting everybody. But they are low-key scared of her, so they walk away. Then we see a fat Yun Wook ask her what she's doing. She greets him too. He asks if she is here to meet Mr. Hong. She says no, and we see Jae trying to get past Yun Wook, saying to get out of his way. He tells them that he did not call them here to chat, but Yun Wook asks who he is. Jae greets them, telling them that he is an aide from the headquarters. He is here to help with the dungeon raid. Yun Wook looks annoyed, asking where he is from. Jae, also in an annoyed tone, starts to lecture him about his job. But Yun Wook says he ain't gonna listen to all that. Jae bluntly tells him he works in the agency director's office. It takes us back to the present, and we see Hong telling Jae that he can stay in his house for now, but he lives here too, so do not complain. Jae says that he is just glad he doesn't have to live in the Minecraft starter house. Hong says that is good and then leaves, telling him to have a good night. On the bed he looks down at his anklet, saying when he was young he used to wonder why he had to learn these things. Then he takes it off, saying that Hong was right, you need to know a lot about technology. While going through his watch, he wonders what he should look at first, saying he could find some records about Kim. As he goes to type, he stops, then starts to type in Seon's name, saying he wants to know about what changed her personality. Then he is shocked once he sees a handout given to staff members about how to avoid her. The first rule is to not praise her magic as she hates it. Jae finds that weird, and number 2 is that if she is not smiling, then to run since you are in danger. In case of emergency, mention the names Yeon Wook or Jun and never mention her school to her. Jae says if that incident changed her personality it makes sense, as there were no bodies left of her friends. But it doesn't make sense this time since he saved everybody. So he wonders what her problem is. He sighs, saying whatever, and keeps looking. Then sees an article written by Hong talking about Ark's River of Promise, which is a research center. It jumps to the next day. We see Jae waiting outside. Sung Jian walks up to him, but Jae is lost in thought, saying that this shit is bleak. He talks about maybe giving up and just living the next 20 years peacefully, abusing his future knowledge, but recalls Jun's words, telling him to make it out alive. The entire time, Sung Jian was trying to talk to him, but he ignored him. So Sung Jian yells, getting his attention. Jae gets a bit scared. Sung Jian asks what he's thinking about so hard. Jae calls out to him, and Sung Jian is surprised that he remembers his name. Then asks him where his sword is, saying his aunt is curious about it. Jae asks about his aunt. Sung Jian humble brags about his aunt, saying she is famous. Jae thinks about it, saying that it must be the master of the Dae Sion Guild, Lee Mi Sion. She is a powerful hunter, who cared about Sung Jian a lot in his timeline so he could secure his future. But Hong calls out to him saying to come here, ruining Jae's plan. Jae sighs, saying okay. He heads inside the building, asking Hong what he needs. Hong tells him that he is making a classroom for him. Jae is a bit dejected, asking if he means this room. Hong says yeah, it's just a storage room, so he'll clean it up later. Jae sighs, asking if he can do something about Sion. Hong asks what he means. Jae explains to him that she is very different than when he first saw her at the school. Hong says that her style sure has changed, then proudly says that every hunter hits a wall, and this might just be one that she hit. Jae realizes that this guy is mentally cooked. He says that he is hopeless, as he is way too optimistic about everything. He says that he will never be able to understand normal people's concerns. Later in the day, Jae explains that modern dungeon strategies are divided into before and after the revaluation of runes. He says that runes were long neglected due to several flaws. But an archmage in France revealed the mana hiding rune. And just like when the Fire Nation attacked, everything changed. Despite the flaws, all mages learned this rune. And by 2040, they started making mana equipment like pens and his watch. But at this point, runes are exclusive to mages. As he is teaching, he gets distracted as we see Hong and some other students in the back. He wonders why they are here when they can't even use runes in the first place. He tells Glasses and Sion that since they have been practicing a lot, he wants to assess their levels today. We finally learn that Glasses' name is Choi Jin-woo. He starts to mock Jin-woo, who seems to be having fun learning. Jae asks him if he understands why runes weren't used in the past. Jin-woo says that is because using magic is more convenient. Jae asks him why that is and his brain starts to melt. Jae realizes that must have been too hard of a question for a student. He goes to ask Sion. But she's too busy eating her pencil. He starts to think that maybe she's just possessed since nobody else thinks she's weird. And then tries to ask her. She starts to speak, and he gets scared because she is hella creepy. But she answers him saying that runes get easily erased. He tells her that is correct. And it's especially easy for them to get erased inside of dungeons. Then asks how they compensate for that. He says he will show them and starts drawing a rune on the board. There's a lot that goes into it, and Jin-woo and Sion watch intently. After he is done drawing the enchantment table rune, they are surprised asking how they are meant to memorize this. He tells them that the combination of runes makes it hard to be erased. Sion reaches her hand asking why he didn't teach them that back at school when he first met them. Jae starts to realize what her problem is. And she says never mind, she just drew the wrong runes in the first place. He understands now, that her personality change is because of the runes on Sung Jian being changed. He says that being a hunter is battling with yourself, whether you win or lose. It is your battle. In the end she still will become an archmage, so he could easily ignore this. She shows him again that she drew the new rune. Asking if she did it correctly, but he does not answer since he is lost in thought. She starts to think that he isn't answering because she was wrong. Then starts to cry thinking that she is a failure, and that she messed it up again. He loudly claps his hands together to snap her out of it, saying it might not be his fault but as an adult and a teacher it is his responsibility. We see Jae eating saying that he shouldn't have followed Hong because now he's stuck eating convenience store food inside of one of the starter houses. Hong says that he's pretty knowledgeable about runes, asking if he made them himself. Jae asks if they have to talk about this even while they eat, then tells him that somebody he knows made it. Hong says it's just crazy that he knows so much about runes when he is not a mage. Jae eats his food, saying that he thought he dropped his suspicions, but they're back again. Then decides to add a backstory. He puts on an Oscar-worthy performance, saying that it's a waste to let such knowledge disappear, so he learned it just in case. Hong buys it, saying that he brought up something useless, and to forget what he said. Jae then asks him how he is teaching Sion and Jin Woo. Hong says that he just gives them whatever magic books he can find. He says that Sion has been learning magic since she was a child, but Jin Woo is the problem, as he is having a hard time mastering it. Then he insinuates that Jae should teach them. Jae reminds him that he is not a mage. Hong says that he was just making sure. Jae replies saying that he may not know magic, but he will teach them all of the runes he knows. Hong starts to spit out his food in disbelief. Jae asks why he is so surprised, saying that he will have to publicize all of the runes he knows anyways. Hong asks if that's okay since they were runes made inside of Ark. Jae says yes, just to make sure that Hong is the publisher, that is his only condition. Hong is surprised and Jae asks if he expected him to ask for gold or something else. Hong says no, he just only expected for the students to learn 1 or 2 runes. Jae says at first he just wanted to teach them a couple and call it a day. But seeing how weak they are, it's obvious they won't last long. Hong asks if it's okay with a mage who made the runes for him to teach it to others. Jae says that he is somebody who would be happy if his work saves a single life, as it was the archmage from France that created the mana hiding runes. With saving people being his only goal, he gave away all of his work for free, so he will not care if others take credit. Jae adds another condition, saying that he knows a place that have children in need, and since it is only 2024, he's trying to get Hong to head to the research center and save the younger him a year early. The next day outside we see Hong teaching some of the students. We see him knock Yoon Wook down. Yoon Wook stands back up while Sung Jian leaps at Hong from behind. Hong easily blocks the attack and counters, hitting them both. This knocks them down and he laughs, calling them cute, saying to try it again. Jae watches them, saying that brutes have no elegance compared to his mages. It's night and day. But he spoke too soon, as Jin Woo starts pulling out his hair out of frustration. Jae chalks it up to him just being at that age. Sion says she is drawing it the way he told her. Jae asks if he can take a look. She says no and that she'll show him later. He tries to tell her that his role is to help them get better, but again she says later. He tries explaining that if she develops a bad habit, it would be better to fix it now, but decides that he just needs to encourage them instead. He wonders what he used to do in the past and then recalls him and June bullying other hunters for their stupid ideas. He realizes he can't do this to the students. He then sees Hong encouraging on his side and starts to think about his timeline when Hong saw his report card for the first time. Hong noticed that Jae wasn't happy with it and asks him about it. Jae tells him that he wanted to be in first place rather than second. Hong tells him that even if he isn't first, it does not matter. Jae tries to tell him it does because he wants to go to college. Hong laughs, saying that it will work out as long as he does his best. The flashback ends and Jae tells Sion that he gets it, she can show it to him when she's ready. He smiles kindly at her, saying that she has enough talent to become an archmage and more, and that they're usually stubborn and hate being distracted. She doesn't reply at all to his comments and he starts to wonder why the atmosphere is so tense. But then she begins to cry and apologizes to him. She starts wiping away her tears and tries to hand him her paper. He tells her that she can do it when she wants, but she just continues handing him the paper. He tells her just to take her time, but still while crying apologizes, saying that she was wrong. Jae is taken aback, wondering what he did wrong. And then Hong tells them that classes are over and to clean up and go home. Jinwoo thanks Jae and then Sion walks off. He says he's sure she didn't cry because she was feeling touched by his speech. He lets out a long sigh, saying he can't understand where he went wrong. We see Sung Jian being put into a car as the other students tell Hong they will see him tomorrow. He waves, telling them all to have a safe trip. Jae asks if their houses are close by, but Hong tells him that they just have a nearby dorm. As they are heading home, they talk about how the cases of surprise adoption have been on the rise recently, and that the targets are usually awakened children. There's not even a ransom note. The witnesses don't even care enough to help, so it can happen in broad daylight. Hong asks Jae if the kids he mentioned needing help are part of an ARK facility. Jae says maybe, but there's no way. He thinks that all of the kids are kidnapped, explaining to him that there are orphanages among the places that ARK manages. He can count the ones he knows on one hand, but he is sure there are more. His condition is that Hong needs to save all of those children and let him in on the operation. Hong tells him that he's already made concessions for him, but Jae tells him to calm down, asking if he just plans to take the children away and be done with it. Hong tells him that the current team has enough members, and Jae insists, saying that he knows a way to break the security very easily. Then he tries to cook up a plan and puts on another Oscar-worthy performance, saying that he is someone he needs to find and he wonders if that child is safe. Hong eats up his performance, giving him a look of empathy. He then agrees, saying that it is better for them to have a guide, but it will take some time for them to start, since he has to gather some people. Jae asks if they will be trustworthy, and Hong laughs, saying that he doesn't mess around when it comes to saving children. The next day we see Jae looking at the sky, saying that it's clear. He says that Sion is gloomy like usual, and that the atmosphere is dark. Sung Jian comes in and brightens up the room. Jae says that he is thankful for him. Sung Jian is lost. He introduces a woman named Soon Jin to Jae, who says it's weird they aren't in class right now. Sung Jian says that they are the weird ones, not even taking their lunch breaks. Jae tells him that they have been reducing their breaks on their own accord. Sung Jian says that it must be because they are mages, since he can't sit still due to his Subway Surfer brain. Sung Jian then asks him where his sword is. Jae says that Hong told him not to carry it around. Sung Jian says he wanted to see it up close. He says that since there are two of him, maybe there will be two of his swords as well. A fancy car pulls up to the school and a woman steps out. Jae is surprised as the woman is talking to Hong, and we see that it is Kaimin, the Archmage. Jae says that this didn't happen before and it's a little scary. On her file we see that she died 3 years from now while fighting a siren. She was given an offer to teach, but she tells Hong that she will only be able to do basic magic, as her magic requires high compatibility. Also, how the students don't have the aptitude for it. Hong is surprised that she can tell from just looking. She tells him that she just built like that. She looks at Sion, saying that since she is No Kyung's granddaughter, she probably already has the basics down. Hong says yes, but she has no experience. Kaimin asks if this is why he called her here, and why he said it was related to Ark. He tells her that it's not completely unrelated. Pointing at Jae, she finally realizes who he is, saying that he's the one from the rooftop. He greets her, introducing himself as the student's magic teacher. She says that she saw him carrying a sword, asking if he is a mage. Hong says that he is not, but he knows something better. She asks if he is talking about unique magic, and he says no. Jae smiles, saying that he is teaching these students about runes. But he is glad to have the opportunity to meet her like this. She starts to nervously say that Jae and Hong are not mages, so they might not be aware. Jae cuts her off, saying that she probably thinks runes are ass. But she tells him that she wouldn't go that far. He says that it will be faster to show her. Outside, he is teaching the students how to fix their runes. He tells Sion that her completion rate is getting higher, but she needs to be more confident in her lines. We see Kaimin looking at one of the runes, saying this is complicated. Jae ignores her, telling the students to activate their runes. We see Jin Woo on the ground, putting mana into the rune, as a giant flame pillar comes out from his paper. Kaimin is surprised. And then from Sion's, we see rain begin to pour down, wiping out the flame. Kaimin is completely taken aback, saying that she does not feel mana, asking how he did this. He congratulates the students, saying that not even an archmage could detect their mana. He shows her the mana hiding rune, and she says this is her first time seeing this. She asks if the overlapping lines are different functions, saying that it's crazy to think it would work. Hong tells her that Jae learned it from a mage he knows. She cuts Hong off, telling Hong to accept her as a new student here. That way she can also learn this rune. She tells him that she doesn't need a salary or anything, she just wants to take the class. Hong tells her that he can do that. Kaimin looks at Jae, saying he could also just draw the runes for her. Hong gives him the thumbs up, thanking him. Then she smiles cheerfully, telling Jae that she will be in his care. He also smiles cheerfully, saying that he can't wait, and this is exciting. A few days later, we see a bunch of people outside of one of the laboratories for Ark. Jae asks who all these people are, and Hong tells them that they are trustworthy and quite thorough. Hong reminds everyone that the goal is to save the children, and they will block the escape route. If they gain information, that will be good too. Maybe they could even catch a higher up. Once they are done, they will send the signal and cause chaos. Jae says that he is just using them at this point. Hong tells him that this is just improvisation. One of the men tells Hong that his skill hasn't detected anything, and there are no life forms aside from bugs, nor are there security cameras. Jae asks if the basement is also empty, and the man says yes. Jae is confused, saying that this should not be possible, then stands up, saying they should go inside. They try to tell him to wait, but he slices the lock off the door with his sword and starts walking in. He tells Hong that something is wrong. They should not have been able to move easily due to the children. Hong asks why that would slow them down. Jae tells him that they are experiments, so they need a very specific environment. Jae heads over to a key press on the wall and starts inputting the code to enter the elevator. The door opens, and Hong says if he knew the code, he could have told them this in advance. Jae tells him that he wants to have some hidden cards as well. Hong sees that it goes all the way up to the 5th floor, saying that it is pretty high. Jae tells him it's the opposite, and they will be going to the basement. The elevator door starts to slowly creak open, as there is nothing left inside. They are confused, saying that there is no way Ark knew they were coming. Jae warns them not to use any magic, as they have initiated an emergency protocol. He specifically says that it is called the Pompeii Project, and there are runes hidden all around that respond to magic. If it detects magic, it will explode. Chai-min is fascinated that you can do all of this with runes. Jae says he will teach her later. As they head down the corridor, Jae says that there isn't even dust, so it looks like they left not too long ago. He wonders what changed for Ark to leave in the middle of the night. They get to one of the doors, realizing that it's locked. Jae tells them that this is the main research lab, and if they go inside, the most important research materials should be here. But we see the children's area all empty. Hong and Chai-min start to have a gut-wrenching feeling after they realize why there are so many kids' toys around. Hong asks Jae if there's anything stopping him from destroying the facility. Jae says no. Hong says good, and then hits the glass beside them. The glass window starts to shatter. Jae says, whether it's from the inside or the outside, this place is as spectacular as ever. Jae flashbacks us to the research center when he was younger. His friend was writing something and he asked what it is. His friend says that it is a diary entry, then tells him about his dad being a lawyer, saying evidence is important. Jae tells the kid to write that the lab chief hits them. The kid says that he doesn't though. Jae says he does hit the lab worker sometimes. So if he writes it like this, it is not a lie. We see that he writes the lab chief keeps hitting people. The flashback ends as we see Misin popping her gum. She says that this was just a waste of time. Jae says that Misin looks the same as she does in the future. Hong says that it isn't a waste of time, as it's still a research center. Misin says that she wouldn't have called it a waste of time if there was any data left. But this is not what he promised her. One of her guild members runs up saying that he has removed all of the explosives. She tells him well done. Then says since Hong is talking to her in the most indirect way possible, he must be hiding something from her. He smiles and she asks what it is. Hong glances over at Jae. Then Misin sighs. She tells her members to leave so she can talk privately with Hong, and to go find something useful. Hong asks one of his workers if she is done organizing. That might be K-Min. Misin says that he told her there was nothing left behind. Hong says that there was nothing left from the lab workers, handing her a piece of paper saying that it was left behind by a kid. And to be precise, it is Jae's younger brother. Misin looks interested, then starts reading it. It starts to mention how the dungeon in Myung was a failure. He doesn't understand what that has to do with them. Misin gets chills, wondering what the hell this is about. Then it mentions how the chief mentioned a dungeon inside of the Songpa district, and that they have to move. It cuts to 2 days later and then we see Soon Jin sitting there blankly. Jae stares at her, asking if she is watching the ants. She says no. He asks what she is looking at then. She says nothing. He looks down at her, saying that her name is hard to forget. But he doesn't remember her, so she might have died early. Or quit. He asks why she is alone, rather than helping Sung Jian. She says it's the plan, and they can't win against Yoon Wook, even if they team up against him. Jae says that's true, as he shows a lot of potential, even when compared to Sion. Then he says that the rest of them are about average. Soon Jin asks if he can stop watching them. He understands something, asking her whose idea it was. She says Sung Jian came up with it. She watches Sung Jian and Yoon Wook. Then she grabs onto her sword and leaps at Yoon Wook from behind, swinging at him. He matrixes her attack, but it gets hit in the stomach by Sung Jian. Yoon Wook manages not to fall over. Soon Jin says that is a shame, and Yoon Wook complains saying that is cheating. Sung Jian says that he should have paid more attention, and the teacher told him to always stay vigilant. Yoon Wook is annoyed, saying this is unbelievable. Sung Jian tells him to team up with somebody else if he's angry. A car pulls up to school, and we see K-Min is already there, so Jae wonders who it is. As we see Misun come out of the car, she asks Sung Jian how he is doing, calling him a kid. He pouts, saying he told her not to call him that in public. Then she compliments Soon Jin, and she turns into a completely different person after receiving the compliment. Jae is confused. Misun sighs, saying that it's good that she left them with Hong, and she wishes their youngest would take after them. Then she tells Yoon Wook to join her guild, and that she will treat him as good as a real older sister. Sung Jian says, "Older sister my ass, you are an old lady." Then she flames him for being a loser. She starts to tell embarrassing stories about him, and how he got rejected. And they continue bantering for a bit, taking shots at one another. Jae says that he heard that she really adored her nephew, and he thought they would be more heartwarming, but they are pretty ordinary, which shows that they are close with one another. Hong steps out, telling everybody that Misun brought food, so let's eat. Then he calls for Jae and Kaemin to come here. Misun tells them that she bought the Songpa Bangi Dong dungeon, but she thinks that the government might try to take over it, due to the other dungeon incident. And thanks to that, other guilds were hesitant to bid, so she did not have to pay much for it. And the assumed rank of the dungeon lowered as well. Hong asks about the official evaluation, and she says because of the Myung dungeon break from before, the rank evaluation was pushed off. Hong says that they should try to get into the Bangi Dong dungeon ASAP. Then asks Jae if he has any idea what his brother's journal entry meant, saying they failed. Jae says no, as his heart starts to sink, since he did not write that diary entry in his previous timeline. The next day, we see Jae opening a marker, saying that since they must be used to the mana hiding runes and support runes, it's time to move on. Kaemin raises her hand, and he asks what her question is. Misun watches from the back, saying he's handsome, but she cannot trust him. She says that both her youngest and Hong lack awareness. Kaemin asks how many runes he knows, and he asks why she is curious. She says it's only natural for his students to be curious about their master's skill. He laughs, saying not to say something so scary. He's not a mage, nor has he signed a contract, so don't call him master. Misun pops her bubble gum, saying that no matter how she looks at it, Jae is suspicious. Everybody turns and looks at her, and she quickly covers her mouth, embarrassed, saying that she's sorry and it's just a bad habit. Jae continues his lesson, saying that he's going to teach them a shadow rune. He draws it, then smiles, saying that's easy to do, right? And they say that he's the nerd emoji in human form. Kaemin asks what it does, and he tells her just to draw it. She asks why he can't just tell them, and he says there's no fun in that. Then tells them to draw it. They all start trying to draw the rune, and Jae walks around. He tells Jinwoo that it's much easier than the mana hiding rune. Jinwoo agrees. Jae starts barking at him, saying that it's a simple rune, so he should know how to draw it very quickly, as there are still more runes for him to learn, so he doesn't have the luxury of practicing all day. He seems really happy about the advice. Jae then walks over to Sion, and says that she did a good job drawing it, but tells her to activate the rune. She starts to do it, and Misun is surprised, saying that her vision is blurred, as Sion starts to fade out. Jae explains how the rune melds the caster with the shadows, so it's not that good when it's bright, but when it gets dark, the effect is nuts. He rips the paper, and she fades back to normal. Jae asks her how she thinks she can utilize the rune. She says that she does not know, then starts to sulk. He says there's nothing wrong with not knowing, and he does not mean to pressure her. She starts to break down, and he turns into a wacky inflatable arm man, saying that it's okay. Misun asks about the mana hiding rune. He says it's just as the name implies, it just hides mana. Then asks if she hasn't heard from Sung Jian, about how it saved the students back in the Myung incident. She says she hasn't heard anything about runes from him. When she asked, everybody kept changing the subject, and she was worried that Sung Jian developed some PTSD. Hong looks over at her like he has no idea what she's talking about. She completely misunderstands, and then asks if he has silenced Sung Jian, telling him to tell her what happened. It jumps to Hong explaining to Jae that Kaemin's family has had archmages with the same attribute for 3 generations now. It's rare, even on an international level. He says that even though they are lacking in experience, the family's reputation is more than sufficient. Hong asks Jae if he understands what he means, and Jae says he has no idea. Hong asks again if he really doesn't know why he's telling him, and Jae says that he has no clue. Hong explains to him that it means that his rune is something that an archmage has vouched for, which means that other mages and people from the Ark might try to pursue him. Jae sips his tea, saying to just announce that Kaemin was the one who discovered it, and he'll be safe. Hong barks at him, saying that he should not live like that, and that it is his achievement, and the mage who made it, and then asks if he thought he silenced the students. Jay asks if he didn't. Hong says, he hasn't, they must have just not said anything, since they knew the value of the rune. Hong tells him not to worry, as he will make sure that his name will be on the history books. Jay starts to develop a guilty conscience, saying that he's taking away so many achievements right now. He's taking away the French Archmage's Mana hiding rune, along with Sion's shadow rune, and the other ones that he's going to yank as well. The massive amount of royalties that other people had from them. He starts to debate it in his head, he wonders how much money he would truly be taking away. Hong sees that he is deep in thought, but after a bit, Jay tells him that he's looking forward to it. Hong says he's not sure what he thought about, but it seems good enough. Then says they should go out for a meal. We see Sion's guild starting to set up vacation stuff outside of the Minecraft starter house. Hong steps outside, asking what is going on, saying that it's like a different area now. Misan asks if their meeting finished. Hong barks at her, saying that this is the school's holy ground. She tells him that he can get reported for child abuse with how barren this area is, and that being in this place will be bad for Soon Jin's skin care. Sung Jian asks about him, and she turns over to look at him, and then asks who he is again. I like their banter. She asks one of her guildies if that's the last box, and he says yes. She tells him to make sure to organize everything properly. Jay wonders where she got all of her supplies from, and she tells him that she installed a subspace. She tells him it's not public yet, but since her company developed it anyway, she's using it first. She tells him to let her know if he needs anything. He tells her it'll be alright. And that's because he's already using one that her guild developed in the future. She stretches her hand out, saying that they haven't formally introduced themselves yet. And she tells him who she is and how she's been helping Hong with a lot of things. She smiles, then whispers at him, saying that she plans on helping him too. Jay seems happy and says that he's looking forward to working with her too. Later on, we see Jay drawing runes in a notebook. Sung Jian walks in, asking if his main weapon is a sword. Jay says no, and then goes to say that he uses spears, but realizes that it would be suspicious. So just asks why. Sung Jian and Soon Jin both ask for him to teach them. He says they both have Hong to teach them, so why do they need him? Sung Jian says that the principal uses a spear, and he told them to learn from Jay since he'll be away from school. Jay gets annoyed by this. He goes to talk to Hong, who says that he was going to tell him, since there are more teachers, he doesn't need to be here all the time. Jay says if he's going to be gone, then at least bring more employees. Hong says they can't hire anybody official, since they don't want the runes to leak to the public. Jay glares, saying that Dae Sion's hunters are trustworthy. Hong says that Sion wouldn't give up her hunters, plus there are still outsiders among her group. Jay asks why he thinks he's so qualified. Hong tells him that he can see it in his eyes, then starts to rizz him up, saying that the eyes are the window to the soul. Jay wonders how he became the strongest in the world. Hong says that he's not letting them use mana, so just fix their postures. Or he can just fight them for training, as he's sure they'll learn from being beat as well. Hong laughs, saying he'll let them know, and they'll probably start sneaking up on him for his head. Jay asks what he means, and Hong tells him that he told the students he'll give them something in return for bringing him Jay's head. They both have an awkward stare down. Jay asks about Hyun. Hong tells him that he left her to chime in. Since mages are similar to healers, he tells Jay that he's heading out now, as he's going to the Songpa dungeon. Jay asks to be taken with him, but Hong gives him the superhero stare, saying that it might be too dangerous, and he should go in first to make sure it's not suspicious. Then he puts his hand on Jay's shoulder, saying he'll be back soon, and to take care of the kids for him. Jay sighs and tells him to be fast. The next morning, we see outside that Minson has spruced up the place a lot more, even bringing a coffee truck. Jay wonders when it got here, and then clears his throat, telling all the students to remember one thing. The one who survives is the strongest. Sung Jian tells him that he doesn't sound cool saying something like that. Jay makes a serious expression, asking if he's ever been inside a dungeon. All the students see on his face that he's serious, and one of them raises his hand, saying that he has. His name is Sol Han Song. We will call him Han. Jay asks how it was, and Han looks a bit scared. He says that it's different, and that's all he has to say. Jay tells him that there are actually theories that say that dungeons are a different dimension. He recalls June giving a speech, how there are no humans in the dungeon, so you must give up being a human in order to survive. Jay tells them these words, but paraphrases it a bit, kind of like when you chat GPT an essay. He tells them that the principal told them to stop sparring each other. The students say yes. He says that he is going to teach them similarly to how he teaches, but he won't be as nice as him. He raises his sword into the air, saying that he will awaken their instincts, and he won't kill them, so try their best. Inside of the Bangui-dong district, which is located inside of Songpa, we see Hong and Minson walking down the street. They said they were going to reassess all the dungeons soon. She tells them they should have done it sooner. And then they complain about the foreign hunters, since all they did was flame the Korean ranking system of dungeons. Hong asks her what she thinks. She's a bit caught off guard, then says that she doesn't need to lie about the dungeon rank to make money. Hong jokingly says he must have underestimated her, and she says of course, and will apologize. She pulls out a recorder, and looks at the portal. She starts to document the day they enter the portal, along with who is going in, and they head inside. On the other side, we see a grassy field, and Minson looks a bit off. She asks Hong to say something, and he tells her he's just embarrassed. And that C-rank dungeons aren't even this relaxed. Hong asks about information on the monsters in here. One of the guild members says they're insect types, but there's not many of them. He then tells him how they are herbivores. Hong says that is rare. The man then tells him they saw them eating leaves, and they paid no attention to the meat and blood they brought with them. While they were curious about humans, they never attacked. Their bodily liquids are also harmless and not acidic. And the core for the dungeon has no monsters surrounding it. Hong says they've been thorough, then looks down, thinking about the dungeon and how it's so peaceful, then kills one of the bugs wondering why Ark paid so much attention to this place. Minson screams, and he asks her if she doesn't like bugs. She says anything with more than 2 legs freaks her out. Then he raises one of the bugs into her face, causing her to die on the spot from a heart attack. He laughs at her death, and then they continue on. He notices the bugs acting weird, telling everyone to wait. And then he smells something foul, then tells them that there's a Discord mod ahead. We see Minson is shocked. Hong says there's a reason they didn't react to the meat, as the only thing they enjoy eating is rotten meat. As they munch on a decomposing corpse, it flash forwards to 2044 in his previous timeline as June is telling Jae about a dungeon in the Songpa district. He sighs, asking her why she's doing this so many times. Then jokes around with her. And she says that she is not joking, and she needs to clear it. He stands up telling her that he isn't joking either and then shoves her out of the room, saying he needs to work. She says this is physical abuse as he pushes her to the door, then tries telling him that she needs to raid the dungeon but he closes it on her face. He jolts awake, then sits up saying that was one hell of a dream. He wonders why a person who never listened to him waited for permission. Thinking about it makes him annoyed, and he decides to just get to work. We hear the students asking if he can tell Hong to hurry up. He tells them that he does not have his number, so he's not sure what he's been doing for the last 4 days. But if they have the energy to talk, they must be rested right, and we see that they are all gassed out on the floor. Sung Jian apologizes, saying they're not sure what they did but they're sorry. Soon Jin says that she deluded herself into thinking she could hit him. Jae gets annoyed, saying that they are exhausting. He doubts they were acting the same way with the principal. One of the students tells him that Hong never pushed him this hard, and then Hyun appears asking if they would like some water. And they see her as an angel. They all start pawing out of their gourd and ask if, and then say that she acts really healer-like. She says that she feels bad for resting alone. Then a taxi starts to pull up. The taxi driver barks at the girl in the back, saying that he only brought her here since she's a student. Asking what business she is all the way out here in the first place. She steps out of the car and Hyun is surprised. Asking why she is here, and we see a familiar looking face. The little girl tells Hyun that she came because she wanted to see her, and that she left school early. Hyun apologizes to Jae, saying that this is her younger sister, and she tells her sister to greet Jae properly. We see the little girl bowing, saying it's nice to meet him and she's heard that he saved her sister's life. Jae says now he understands why he had that dream. As the girl is none other than June. Jae says he has a bad feeling about this and says that it's weird seeing her respectful to him. Along with her smiling so much, also he never even knew she had a sister. He asks her if that's why she came here and she says yes. Then she tells him that she was wondering if he would come with them to the district office since they needed someone who was a C rank or higher. Jae asks if she's a hunter. June proudly says that she has awakened. Hyun is surprised, asking since when. June tells her it was today during PE class. Hyun asks if that is why the teachers let her out. She says yes, since they told her to get registered. Hyun then asks Yoon Wook how it was when he first awakened. Jae is surprised that she isn't calling him a fat ass. Saying maybe Hyun's death is what made Yoon Wook get fat in the first place. One of the students tells her she will be fined if she doesn't get registered within a week. Hyun says she registered way later than her awakening. The girl tells her she went with the principal and he must have taken care of it for her. She says that Han said he took care of his as well. Han tells them that Hong helped with suing the guild and got him compensated. Jae tells Chae-min to go register with June. K-min says she is an S rank and Jae asks if she is bragging. She says that it would get troublesome if her name is listed there, as the press loves scandals, asking Jae why he won't do it. He tells her that he can't. She asks why not. He tells her he is broke and phoneless. She gives him a pity stare, then tells him that June chose him already, so just to go with her. June says that she was thinking about something, then asks Jae to take her in as a disciple. He starts to feel panicked, asking if she is talking to him. Her eyes full of hope say yes and she wants to be his disciple. He calms himself down thinking about it. June is a genius. She is loyal, so there are plenty of ways she will be useful. He just needs to get over this discomfort as it is a mental issue. He quickly tells her no, and she is shocked, asking why not. He tells her that he is not a mage, so he can't take in a disciple. She tells him that he teaches everybody else. He tells her to just come after she graduates middle school. She pouts, saying she read online that the golden time is within a month of awakening. She keeps yapping and Jae turns, asking if anybody else believes this shit. K-min and Hyun both say no. One of the other students says that she has, then hands him a flyer that she got this morning. Just like before, I am not reading all of that. The girl says that she only kept it because there weren't trash cans. Jae shows it to June, telling her that this is a scam, and to just wait for Hong to come back. He then claps, telling everyone that they've all had enough rest. Then tells June she can stay and watch beside her sister. Sung Jian says she won't enroll after she sees how the classes are. Jae tells him that he thinks it will interest her more since it's fun. Sung Jian says of course he finds it fun. Then they continue practice, and we hear them screaming with joy. That night at a restaurant we see Hong being told about June, and he says that he knows who she is, and he feels bad since she and Hyun live on their own. K-min says that she is quite gutsy as she asked Jae to be his disciple. K-min laughs, saying that she didn't even give up after seeing how Jae trained the kids. She has never seen him so flustered. Hong laughs, saying he wishes he didn't miss it. Jae reaches into his pocket, telling them to look at this, but Hong says he has something to show him first, showing him the rotting corpse inside of the Songpa dungeon. He asks Jae if he recognizes this person. Jae says he can't, and Hong finds it surprising, saying that it's Kim, the one who sacrificed himself to let Jae escape from Ark. A chill runs down Jae's spine, as Hong says he's surprised he didn't recognize him. Then asks Jae who he really is. The waitress comes over, putting their food on the table, breaking the awkward silence. Hong asks Jae if there's nothing he wants to say. He replies saying that they should stop this. Hong tells him that he's just getting started. Jae sighs, saying that Kim is a girl, so he doesn't know why he's showing him some random guy's body. Jae did some research before borrowing this identity, as he didn't want to leave it up to luck, so we see him on his watch. He searched for obituaries, and since Hong is a boomer he just refers to everybody by their last names. One of them is named Kim and he is abroad, while another died in a dungeon break. The last one is a police officer that Hong worked with on multiple cases. Her records disappeared due to her being undercover. Jae thinks it's a bit sad how she died. His con man flashback ends, then he asks Hong why he's showing him this guy, saying surely he didn't kill him just to test him. Hong says no, he just found him inside of the dungeon. Even though it was being guarded around the clock, they still found him inside. Then he shows Jae a rune, asking if he knows about it. Jae asks if he only probed him because he wanted help. K-min is confused and then yells, saying that she does not understand, a thing they have been saying since earlier. Asking why it matters what gender Kim is, Jae asks her if she is drunk. She tells him not to change the subject. He reminds her that he is from the Ark. She says that he's never told her directly before, but that she would be a fool not to know, after the way he acted at the research center. Jae starts to get annoyed at Hong since he brought him all the way here without explaining anything. We see it jumps to later. After Jae has explained it all to K-min, she points at Hong, saying surely he's done suspecting him now. Hong starts to reach into his back pocket, saying that it's not much of an apology, but whips out forms of identification for Jae. He says the details were filled in with what he said while being interrogated. He also gives him a hunter's license, and even though it is a D rank he can update it later, along with a bank book and a check card. Jae looks at it, asking if this is the correct amount. Hong says of course. He made sure to calculate it correctly, and he should have already taken the money out that he spent this month, so think of it as a favor. Hong says he knows he's happy, but he could at least look at it after they eat. Jae wonders if his face looks that happy, and the atmosphere for every single one of them is very cheerful. Jae says, ignoring the money issue, the fact that Hong gave him this means that he's finally accepting that he was one of those kids from ARC. We see Hong looking at a flyer that Herman brought. He gets a bit nauseous, asking why this shit is written so formally. Jae tells him that it's an ARC research center, specifically a branch to recruit new members. Hong asks why they are acting like a third-rate cult. Jae says that it's just to increase their selection pool, so they could find better test subjects, as one of their main goals was to create an artificial awakening method. Min and Hong are both surprised by this. As chills run down their spine, Hong asks him what he means by an artificial awakening. Jae asks if he really did not know, saying that the children were kidnapped solely for this purpose. Then asks him what kind of place he thought ARC was. Hong says he thought it was just a crime syndicate, and Jae says he's not wrong. Hong looks down frustrated and then explains how 2 years ago, somebody he knew that was dispatched to the States was slaughtered along with his team. So he went around the world tracking his corpse, and ended up in South America. That is where he first learned of ARC, but the deeper he searched, the more he realized there were roots all over the world, ranging from all types of violent crimes. All of the countries they were located in had already investigated them. Jae says he's starting to understand it. The ARC that he knows was focused on research. Min then raises her tablet, asking Jae if he can tell which rune this is. He says it's not one that he has ever seen before, and Hong gets surprised that there are runes he doesn't know of. Jae shrugs, saying he can't remember all of them. Then does a double take at the tablet, saying that he can just figure out what kind of rune it is. The next day we see Min raising the trunk of her car, telling the kids it's time to eat. The manhwa quickly shifts genre to a zombie apocalypse, as the zombies charge towards the back of the car for the final survivor. Jae asks Min if she brought everything he asked for. She cheerfully says yes while handing it to him. He tells her she did good, she likes the compliment. He hands her a notepad with runes, saying to copy these and stick them on all the meat. She wonders why. Jae says he doesn't know why they were so sloppy and in a rush, so he had to draw several versions. Min jokingly asks if he made the rune, and he tells her to get to work. As all the students are enjoying their meals, we see Jin-woo look over to his side as he notices Min and Jae. Curious, he heads over, asking them why they are putting a rune on the meat. Jae says that it's for a test. Jin-woo asks if it's to create a new rune, saying that they all look similar. Jae quickly tries to shoo him off, saying that Min hasn't eaten yet, so not to bother her. But she tells him that it's fine, then asks how his food was. Jin-woo says it was good, since all Hong brings them is meaty food, rather than vegetables. He asks if Hong is back yet. Min nervously laughs, saying he sure is taking a while. We learn that Hong went back to the dungeon to double check. Jin-woo starts to smell something, then asks Jae if he thinks there's something that reeks. Jae glances behind him, saying that they are using runes to rapidly decompose meat. We see a younger Jae from his timeline, asking Hong if he thinks it's a good idea for him to get a hunter's license. Hong is surprised, saying that he thought he did not want to be a hunter. Then he sits up, asking if he is being bullied at school. Jae asks him what he's talking about, and picks up the remote, saying there's just too much competition in the civil service exam. Hong tells him that he can make a spot for him, and Jae says that sounds like he's trying to get dragged to another hearing. And he only asked because he's wondering if he can get additional points for getting a hunter's license. Hong thinks about it and says that he's not sure. Jae reminds him that he is the most influential person in the management agency. Hong says that is true, but he's not in charge of recruiting. He tells him that he'll look for some information. So just go ahead and get the license with the highest rank he can. Jae says that sounds like a pain, as he just wants to get a D rank. Hong is shocked, saying as his son he can't go for D rank. Jae sighs, saying that he didn't inherit his skills since he's adopted. Hong sighs too and then pats his head, saying that he can't win against him. Back to the current timeline, Hong says that there was somebody inside of the dungeon. Jae asks what he means, and Hong tells him that although they were dead, they found somebody inside of the dungeon, and that the Daeseon Guild said they will investigate it. So they just have to wait. Jae looks a bit worried. Hong tells him that they should just prepare for the dungeon field training. Jae asks if he's going to be doing it soon, saying that with his skills, even B rank would be considered free. Hong asks him what he is saying, handing him the paper, saying that he is the one who will be going. Jae is confused and Hong says that he should be capable enough. Jae tells him that if he's going to make him work like a dog, he should increase his salary. Hong pulls the frugal option, saying that operating a school is expensive. Jae says they don't even have a lot of students. Hong snaps his fingers, saying they still have to pay for building construction. Jae asks when, but Hong starts spitballing, trying to come up with an excuse about how there are dungeons and it increases the rate. Jae tells him just to clear the dungeons, then Hong gives a love tap to the paper he handed him, saying that this is what it's for. Jae says it would surely be faster if he cleared them. And Hong laughs, saying no, since they need results. It is a model school that will be built using his name. Many people disagreed, saying that hunters don't need a school. But they reluctantly agreed since he was the principal. So that's why he has to show results. If he or Chaimin went in, people would consider it a skewed result. He also says how the number of awakeners increases yearly, but the dungeon casualties also increase at a similar pace, and the hunters are becoming more unsociable as their skills stagnate. The school must not fail if they are to protect the newly awakened ones. Hong takes a sip of his coffee, saying there's a more straightforward way to do this. With a sparkle in his eyes, Jae asks what it is. Hong tells him that they can announce that they will be teaching runes exclusively at their school. Jae, with his eyes still sparkling, says that he will absolutely try his best. It cuts to later as Hong is telling the students about their dungeon run. He says it's been 3 months since the school opened, so it's time for a test, and that Jae will be going into the dungeon with them. So listen to him. Jae tells them that the day of the practice training will be held on the 15th of June. It's the C-rank dungeon beside the school. Since he is there to grade them, he'll only help for dire moments, so to form parties and clear the dungeon. But there are 4 things they must grasp. That is rank, environment, the location of the core, and the monster types. He tells them that the place has a natural environment similar to Earth, but due to dimensional distortions there are also bizarre cases. He tells them to think of the dungeons they've seen in the media. While he is talking, Sion starts to have a flashback. Sion recalls her grandpa showing her his unique magic, and he fondly calls out to her, saying that she will become a mage that will surpass him, and that he believes in her. And even without him, she will be okay, and that she can do it. Some of these are also just her mental illness, using the voice of her grandpa. Jae tells them that this will do for a rough explanation, and they should go eat lunch. As in the afternoon they will be doing interviews, and tells them to think of what they lack in the face of a pixie. I do not know what this means. The students head outside, and Jae notices that Sion is not moving from her seat. He awkwardly asks her if she is going to be going for lunch, but he sees that she is crying. Panicked, thinking that he made her cry, he asks her what's wrong, suggesting that he can call Hong. She wipes away her tears. And with a worried tone, she tells him that she wants to quit school. He is confused, and she says that no matter how she thinks about it, she does not have the talent, nor does she want to become a burden, so she just plans to quit. Jae hits her with the triple W, wait, what, why? Asking if someone said something to her. She quickly says no, it's just that she can't use magic properly. He asks if she isn't aware about how fast her casting speed is. She awkwardly looks to the side, realizing that she does, and he asks if she thinks Jin Woo can't use magic either. She tells him that he has nothing to do with it, since he only awakened 6 months ago, and she's been awakened for over 10 years, and that she even knows unique magic. She says that she understands all of it, even the formula, but she can't even use it, despite understanding it. Full of anger and sadness, she clenches her fist. He calls out to her, asking where she learned unique magic. She tells him that her grandpa taught her before he died, and he asks her what attribute he was. She replies saying that her grandpa used light. Jae laughs, telling Sion that she actually is very talented. She's taken aback, and he tells her that he will make her an archmage. We see Jae telling Hong that Sion is talking about dropping out. But he talked to her. Hong asks what the reasoning is. Jae tells her that she thinks she has no talent. Hong says that her standards are too high because of who her grandpa was. He doesn't know anyone more strict than he was. Jae asks if he knew him personally. Hong eats his food, saying that he knew Sun's father. He last saw her grandpa when his friend died, only hearing about him again at his funeral. He was very strict with his son, but seemed to have eased up with Sion. He was a father who wanted to see his son succeed as much as him. But his son had inherited none of his father's talents. And due to this his son tried to prove himself. He was overzealous and ended up dying inside of a dungeon. He regretted how he treated his son and raised his granddaughter Sion. In the peace of his hometown, he died a hero helping civilians evacuate during a dungeon break. After that someone else took care of Sion until she came here. Jae asked when Mr. Park died. Hong says it was around when Sion turned 10. He asks who the guardian was, and Hong says that it was Mr. Park's guild lawyer. Jae asks if this means that Seon learned her magic solely from her grandpa. He says yes, asking Jae if it bothers him. Jae says he has a feeling that he was not any less strict with her, as it's common among the mages to force their child on the path of being a mage even if they don't want to. And now he is not certain, but he does not want to mess with her PTSD. He tells Hong to take care of her, and Hong just makes a Minecraft villager sound. Jae asks what that response means, and Hong says that he feels like he'll take care of her even if he didn't. Jae doesn't reply and Hong smirks, saying he knew so. Hong says that he expected as much from her homeroom teacher. Jae asks when he became a homeroom teacher. Hong tells him that that's what everybody considers him as already. Jae barks, saying to raise his salary if he wants him to be a homeroom teacher. Hong says that lunchtime is over and reminds Jae that he has to go give a lecture. Jae turns into a vengeful ghost, telling him to up his salary. Hong ignores him while Jae gives him a death glare from behind. Jae puts his foot up, saying that he'll go talk to the kids, and he'll make sure that Hong takes care of the non-mage kids. Hong feels a chill run down his spine, and he starts to plead with Jae, saying he can't do this to him, and Jae walks off. What the eagle doin'? It jumps to the classroom as Jae is asking the students what they think about it. Asking if they think they can survive in a dungeon. Jinwoo asks if they are supposed to be more focused on their survival than the raid itself. Jae says he didn't expect them to come up with such a great answer, so they should skip that topic. Jinwoo is confused, asking why Jae told them to think it over. And it's all gloomy. Jae sparkles, saying that it's so they can realize how useless they are. And if they really thought it over, then it's good. At first everybody is useless. A hunter needs to know how to find their weakness and make up for it. Jinwoo asks where he should start, saying he's lost. Jae raises a feather, asking if they know what elements of magic they are. There is nothing more subject to change than a mage's value in society. Right now mages are highly valued. But once the mana hiding rune is developed, their values go down. Maybe you're curious on how mages adapt. And since they've already been isolated, they double down on it. The countless magic research societies disappeared, as they all began trying strange things to pass their elements to their offsprings. The archmage in France studied how mana works and revealed to the public how to find their element. Other mages learned from him and analyzed their children's mana to keep those who had the same elements as them and abandon those who didn't. They sent them to the Hunter Academy. Jae tells the students they will find their elements today. Kaemin is surprised and she says she doesn't want to interrupt, but saying that she's only aware of finding your element by feeling it. Jae thinks about it, wondering how to explain this. So tells her this is a method developed by the same mage who made the runes. Kaemin starts drooling out of her mouth, saying they should give it a try then. He explains the whole process, but I don't think this is important at all. It's pretty much them just putting a feather into water, then imbuing it with mana. Then afterwards it will sprout with the element that they possess. In Kaemin's case we see roots. Everybody is shocked and Jae says now they can see how easy it is. Kaemin starts to press him, asking who the mage is. And Jae ignores her. She tells him to stop playing dumb and to please tell her who the mage is. We see that she is determined to know. Jae tells her he is dead and she has a blank expression on her face. Then immediately feels guilty of pressuring him about it. Seon holds a feather and begins to imbue her mana into it. She says nothing is happening. And Jae tells her just to keep trying. Eventually the feather begins to grow black. She asks Jae what this means. He tells her he knew it was an element problem, as her element is shadow, the opposite of light. It's not that she wasn't good enough for her grandpa, it's simply because their elements did not match. He tells Jinwoo to give it a try as well. And he begins to imbue his mana into it as a blue flame appears. Jae tells him that's a real fire and to let go of the feather now. Jae tells him that it's not hot at all. We get a nice image of him being the light and Seon being the shadow. It cuts to later, outside of the classroom. Seon is saying that she's been thinking about it. And it's true that she can't use her grandpa's magic. So she has decided to look at it from a different view. Jae tells her that she must have put a lot of thought into this. She smiles, saying yes. Saying that it's a shame that she can't use it, but she doesn't want her grandpa's magic to be forgotten. And how Kaemin told them that many spells have been lost due to this. She doesn't want to become a statistic. Jae asks what she wants to do. She confidently says that she wants to become Jinwoo's teacher. Jae is surprised that she came to him with a perfect solution, asking if she's sure that she wants to teach him all of her grandpa's spells. She says yes, and it's not like Jinwoo is a completely random person. He asks if she is sure since she has not known Jinwoo for that long. She says that she is sure. He says that she may be saying that now, But her feelings might change when she sees him using the magic. He tells him that she needs to see someone else using it to truly let go. He realizes that she wasn't as mentally exhausted as he thought. And maybe it's because she is young that she has grown a lot. Or maybe he just has a talent for counseling. He wonders how Hong dealt with her in his past timeline, saying maybe he just left her alone. But he says anyways, this is good news for Jin Woo. We see Jin Woo being told about it. He says that he doesn't want it. Both Jae and Kaemin are confused, asking why. He says that it's not that he looks down on Sion, but her becoming his teacher is kind of weird. Kaemin asks why that matters, then says that he just might not understand what this means. He says that he does understand since he is a mage, but still he just does not want to do it. Jae asks for the reason, and Jin Woo says that no matter how much he thinks about it, treating a friend as a teacher is weird. Awkward silence falls on the room, and Jae gets annoyed, saying that this is a stupid ass reason, and asks if that's all there is to it. Jin Woo says that he knows it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but it's also about how much the magic means to Sion. Most mages awaken at a young age, sometimes as early as when they start to walk. Jin Woo awakened way too late for a mage, and maybe that's why he seems so naive. He says that he just doesn't want Sion to be disappointed in him, and he doesn't want to get exhausted trying to keep up with her. Nor does he want things to become awkward between the two of them. He doesn't have any grand ambitions to become an archmage or master unique magic. He's okay with being ordinary. Jae tells him that he'll respect his decision and he can take his break. Kaemin panics, asking Jae why he's just giving up like this, saying that he must understand the value of Mr. Park's unique magic. Jae then asks her if Jin Woo is really as untalented as he claims. She says that she doesn't know, since it's subjective, so it is difficult to explain to someone who is not a mage. For basic magic, you can master it with time and effort, but unique magic does not work that way. Someone who can't use basic magic might have severe post-nut clarity, becoming an archmage who excels in unique magic. While it might also be the other way around for somebody else, they will never learn anything about unique magic. She says that it's simply just luck. He asks her about Jin Woo, and she says that they won't know until they try. And while it's not good to set limits on oneself, she understands where he is coming from. As bearing such a huge legacy would be too big of a burden for a student to handle alone. She asks if Sion said it could only be Jin Woo. Jae thinks about it and then sighs, saying that he's at a loss here. He recalls when he was a teenager, and Hong said that he would support him regardless of what he chose. If he wants to go to college and work at a company, that's fine. And if he wants to become a hunter, he'll make sure that happens too. And that if someone bullies him, he'll make sure that he'll take care of that. He can make a couple people disappear. Jae coldly says no thanks, and Hong asks if he hates him. Saying that he's human too, so it hurts when he talks to him like that. And tries to teach him how to strangle somebody. Jae pulls his hand away, saying enough, and Hong asks if he doesn't hate him anymore. Jae says that he's being a freak. And he wonders what Hong would do in this position. And then decides that it's best for him to do it. And he leaves the classroom saying he can't do it exactly like Hong would, but he can confront them just like he would. He calls out to Sion, telling her that Jin Woo said no. She is at a loss for words, asking why. Jae tells her that he just feels unworthy of learning from her. He believes that he lacks the talent to be her student, and that he wouldn't be able to face her, or something like that. Sion asks if he tried to persuade him. Jae says no, since it is Jin Woo's feelings. She says that he told her that he would make her an archmage. And Jae says that's because he came after already knowing the answers. He clears his throat saying that she's his student, but Jin Woo would be her student. And she starts to understand. He tells her that her first task as a teacher is to be honest and persuade the student. She grabs onto her notebook and then yoinks a page out and starts to eat it. Jae says that she is definitely not all there upstairs. Sion smiles, saying that she will go. And Jae says that the mental illness is strong with this one. It cuts to another flashback of Jae as a kid in his timeline. Hong tells him they need to talk, but Jae says that he's got nothing to say since he's not his real son anyways. Hong barks at him. And Jae is taken aback since he's never seen him like this. Hong realizes that his anger got the best of him and goes to take a knee. He tells Jae that he is still his son. Jae asked if he's only like this due to the adoption. Saying that he'll leave once he becomes an adult. Hong calls out to him again, and Jae says to stop saying his name as it's not meant to be said by him, since he's not his son, so don't get it twisted. He says he's like a stray dog he found in the street. Asking if that's right. Hong says he doesn't know where he heard that, but Jae cuts him off saying that he's heard it from Hong's friends. and he understands why the other kids don't want their parents to mingle with an orphan. Hong calmly tells him that he did not bring him here as a replacement. Jae asked if he did it solely to write a nice story about how he adopted a poor orphan boy. Hong thinks about it and tells him that he ran away from his orphanage when he was 19 on the moment he awakened. And he saw himself in Jae the day he found him, and wished that he wouldn't walk the same path he did. And that is why he decided to become his father, and he hugs him. Flashback ends as Kaimin is saying that she can't put her finger on what type of person Jae is. She doesn't know if he loves the students or not. Jae tells her it's more of a fondness. She says that she doesn't disagree with them and asks how Jin Woo is doing. He tells her that he just helps guide them. And then from his experience, the kids are emotional and they often get too unstable with even the smallest poke. Jin Woo might have been worried because he let Sion down. Kaimin says she understands, and Jae continues saying that they just need to form a bond so that even if they're disappointed it won't matter. And then we see them both crying and Jin Woo says that he never told them about this, and they both decide that they're going to give it their all to one another. 2 days later we see Jin Woo formally bowing to Sion, calling her teacher, asking her to look at his paper. She proudly takes the paper and tells him that he's doing much better with this one. Jae says this is a mess. But that makes him feel better seeing her smile so brightly, and that if there's still a problem here, it would be Sung Jian. We see him and Han sparring with one another and they're talking about how they just traded knocks. Jae starts to fade out saying he can't believe the vibes are so different. Sung Jian then asks Jae if he or Han won. Jae says to do rock paper scissors as that's the only way to determine who won. Sung Jian asks who fights like that and Jae says he does. Then we see Kaimin's car pull up and the students greet her. They ask if she brought what she said she would and she says yes, dropping a fat stack of paper onto the table saying it's a standard contract. She says that she brought a contract that she used so they can edit to fit their situation. Both Sion and Jin Woo are taken back by this. Kaimin apologizes saying it's short as she learned it from her father. Jin Woo asks if family members write contracts. Jae reminds them that lawsuits happen all the time between teacher and student. So this helps with that. Kaimin says that they should be thankful it ends in a lawsuit as recently somebody was stabbed. They made their niece do their bidding for 10 years over magic. The girl in question just wondered why her aunt was shit talking to her when she had a knife in her hand. She will not likely be found guilty. Jin Woo is scared, asking if this is how mages normally are. Sion says that if he has an issue with her to let her know before he stabs her. He quickly says that he does not plan to do that. He says that this contract is giving him a headache since it's too long. Sion says that she would have told Kaimin they were fine if she knew this is what she meant by contract. Kaimin is surprised, asking if they're not going to write one. Sion says they will, but it doesn't need to be so complicated. She starts to write it out. It pretty much just says that all of her grandpa's magic will be taught to Jin Woo. And she recognizes his ownership of it. Only when both he and she agree can they be a new successor, and if one of them die the other may choose the successor. She snaps the pen and covers her thumb in ink, putting it by her name. Kaimin is surprised, asking if this is it, saying it's so short. Sion says this is all they need, asking Jin Woo if he needs to add anything. He says that he's not too familiar, but says his successor would just be a student, right? She says yes, and he says it's her grandpa's magic so she should feel free to teach anybody with more talent than him, and he signs. Kaimin has a mental breakdown and tries to convince them to write more specifics, instead of being so broad, as they know this is legally binding. Sion says yes, and they were hoping that she could be their notary, as with the Grand Mage's approval there won't be any legal issues. Jae says even if it turns out sour they'll learn from this. Sion then tries to give it to Jae, telling him to sign it too. He asks why and she says that she heard 3 witnesses is a good number and she's gonna ask Hong to sign it too. Jae signs it and says that regardless of him nobody will be able to disregard it if both Hong and Kaimin have both signed it as well. It cuts to some time later as Jae is outside drinking his tea, admiring how peaceful and quiet it is, but he's confused on why it is so peaceful. We see him talking to Hong about Ark, and Hong tells him that it is still being investigated by Mason. That aside, there will be a test soon, asking how the kids are. He says that he only knows how the magic students are doing. Hong says he should be less cold and he should look after all of the students. Jae regrets talking to him. Hong says it's not like he's doing much and the classes are on hold due to the kids getting ready for the test. Jae says that's because he put all the prep work on it for him, and then Hong says that Sion is the one teaching magic anyways. Jae gets annoyed. Hong smiles and laughs, telling him to please keep working hard. Jae says that even if his senses as a hunter are ass, he feels weird being this restless, and wonders if it's because there is no work to do. then says nah, as there's nobody that balances their work and life better than he does. Even though his vacation days are piling up. It's normal for people to forget about them when they're so focused on work. Then something clicks and he heads outside to see Jin Woo asking if it works. Jae feels something bright as we see that Jin Woo has already used some of Sin's grandpa's magic. Jae is surprised, wondering if Jin Woo is a genius. Sion says that's not the case. Then changes to explaining how her grandpa's magic is used to brighten up dark places. And it reveals hidden things as well as traps. It starts to dissipate and she watches full of nostalgia. Saying that it's a great magic and laughs, asking if they agree. Hong spawns in with the thumbs up. Jae then calls out to Sion asking her how the mana analysis is going. She says that she's working on it. Jae asks if Kaimin didn't teach her how to do it. Sion says that she did, but she just doesn't understand as it's different from how her grandpa explained it to her. He still finds it impressive that she was able to imitate light magic, even though her attribute is different. He tells her not to think about it too much. As if she gets hung up on it. It's not going to end up good. He asks if she's good with basic magic, and she says yes, but it's different. He drops to the ground and starts to dig out a hole. Saying the part about using magic is the same. He tells her to fill this hole with water, asking if she can do that. Startled, she says yes, and then quickly casts a water spell. He tells her to boil it now. And she starts to heat up the water. As it gets hotter and hotter, we see her drained a little bit and he tells her to stop. Asking if she understands it. He asks her to think about why she can use light magic, which is the opposite of darkness. He tells her that he's not sure since he's not a mage, but tells her to think about how water and fire are total opposites, and asks about their formulas. She says them aloud and she realizes what he's saying now. He tells her that sometimes you can create an opposite effect just by flipping the formula, telling her to start from there. He tells her that the rest will be up to her to figure out, and if she needs more help to ask Kaimin. She starts to ask if she can't just ask him. And he pushes her forehead back, which catches her off guard. He reminds her that he isn't a mage. And he says that she is scary when her bangs come down. Which is why he poked her. He says originally they were meant to be 10 kids in this high school's first generation. In the original timeline he's not sure how many would have dropped out by now, after the Myung incident. Even now the classroom isn't packed and he wonders how it would be in the original timeline. He says he probably would have dropped out by now and that only the anxious students have left. They were originally supposed to struggle for a few years before the academy changed its name. He sees Hyun practicing her magic and calls out to her. She breaks her spell and he scoffs, saying that is a lack of concentration. She starts to tear up from his teasing. He says as a hunter she should always remain focused. She reminds him that she is a healer and he asks if healers don't go into dungeons. Telling her to try again and she does so. He thinks about something and asks her how June is doing. Saying that he heard that she went with Hong to be registered. She starts to grumble and says even though it's still her little sister, but gets cut off by Jae asking her what's wrong. She sighs, saying that she doesn't know where she keeps getting these weird ideas from. She barely stops her from putting her feet in ice before school. She keeps talking about how cold feet helps with mana circulation, and a bunch of other just useless stuff and sighs. Jae wonders if this is why he's been feeling restless these past few days, asking if she's mentioning anything about doing something for the buildup in her veins. Hyun says that June was talking about some kind of detox thing, and has been eating nothing but lettuce. Jae puts his hand on her shoulder comforting her, and starts to think what will happen if June gets brought into a cult. Kaimin appears asking if they're working hard. Jae ignores her since he is focused on June, as he wants to piggyback on her success. And he even has dreams about trying to keep her under wraps. It flashbacks us again to Jae as a child. Hong saying that he took a look at his homework and he asks him about what he wrote in the future profession slot. Jae asks if he seriously doesn't know as a hunter. Hong says that he just really wants to hear his explanation. Jae tells him he just wants a stable job and he doesn't want people to order him around. As that's what he wants to do instead. But he knows that employment in private companies is unstable. Hong asked him where he heard all of this and he says that it was the news. So Jae tells him that he's going to become a civil servant instead. He doesn't want to become the president because that seems like busy work. He just wants to become a middle-level manager, who passes his responsibilities to others. He keeps talking about all of this. And Hong starts to feel a little worried. Then thinks about it and pats Jae on the head, saying that if that is what he wants, he'll let him do whatever he wishes. Later in that same timeline, we see an older June asking why he didn't enroll in the academy. He tells her it's because he wants to become a civil servant, not a hunter. She is baffled, asking if Hong knows about this, and then tries to get him to go spar with her. But he tells her no as he has an exam coming up. She proudly tells him that if he becomes a hunter he won't have to do exams. He says if he does that he'll become stupid like her. Poor June caught astray. Later as an adult he says it seems they cleared the dungeon with great difficulties. And if they've come to reality after working under June then they're prepared to become a proper hunter. He asks them why they became hunters and why they want to continue it, saying that these are questions they need to seriously think about. And then they ask him why he did not become a hunter, saying he has the license and he has the skills. He bluntly tells him he doesn't like to fight and he doesn't like doing ignorant labor. Back to the current timeline, we see him on the other side of a street saying that he impulsively walked to June's middle school. But what now? He spots her across the street with a flyer in her hand, wondering if she's still buying into that shit. An older lady approaches her. We'll call her Scammer, asking if she's interested. Scammer says that she is also from where the paper is so she can tell her more about it. Jay looks up to see that it's not time to cross yet and gets annoyed. As soon as it is time to go, he quickly runs over calling out to June, who is surprised to see him. She asks him what he's doing here and he stumbles trying to find an answer. Scammer starts to ask if he is her teacher, saying that he's very handsome. He says he is, asking who she is. She says that she isn't suspicious at all and hands him her business card. I'm still calling her Scammer. She says that surely he can't tell what she does based on the name of her position. It's just team leader. Since he knows it's a pseudo-religion. Scammer says they conduct various activities for children such as field work and other things like summer camps. Saying that a lot of people are struggling with so many dungeon breaks. And as a result they offer counseling alongside activities. Scammer tells Jay that many people just like him often visit him. He asks what she means and she says that people who work with children often stop by trying to figure out how to help the children better. And she knows that there are many strange places in this world, but she assures there's nothing wrong with her people. And then shows him the branch of where she works. She says they have branches all around the country and receive support funds from the government. He takes her card and looks at June, saying that he knows Hyun told her to go straight home after school. She realizes that she is going to get scolded and Jay tells her to quickly go home, without being sidetracked. And she makes puppy dog eyes while saying goodbye. Jay says he didn't think that she'd let her go. I don't know what this means, but the Scammer girl says that if she could talk to him for a bit, he might want to join them. Jay says he understands that she just thinks he's an easier prey than a 16-year-old girl. She pulls out a tablet saying that this is her association and shows all the sponsor companies they have. Saying that surely he recognizes some of them. He looks over and says that he's honestly not a teacher. He ended up working as one and then thinks about what he should say and asks her if she's heard about Hunter High School. And she realizes that she's caught a good prey and quickly says that she's seen it on the news and starts to praise him, asking if he's a teacher. He says yes and sighs. And he says considering how some students have suffered through their childhood, it's no easy job. She says she understands and he must have gone through a lot and asks if he is a hunter. He says yes, but his rank isn't high. She quickly changes the subject, saying that what's important is his dedication, and then asks if they can go to the coffee shop to talk. They head over there and he starts laying the perfect prey for her. A rookie low-ranking hunter who has only been a teacher for a little over a month. And how his concerns for the students are genuine and that he has a strong connection to Hong, Korea's strongest hunter. So what better prey is there for this cult? It cuts to Jay telling Hong about the National Society of New Minds and Spirit, the pseudo-religion. Hong asks why he is holding this. Jay tells him that some lady gave it to him on the street. He snatched it, as she was cornering Hyun's sister. Hong asks if he means June and he says yes, and if he should keep an eye on her as her guardian. He says that he's closer to a proxy guardian, but Jay quickly changes the conversation, saying that he easily convinced the Scammer by convincing her that he was worried about the students. She gave him a lecture, and told him to attend in his free time. Hong asks if he is trying to get his permission to get in touch with her. Jay says yes, since he talked to her already. He figured maybe somebody else could go this time, and have them say they're a teacher just like him at the school. Hong asks why he doesn't keep doing it. Jay reminds him that he's under probation. Hong says that it'd be a problem to have him disappear without notice. But if he lets them know beforehand it is okay. Jay says that he is trusting him way too much and is speechless. Hong asks him if there is a problem and Jay says no, he's just not good at this sort of thing. Hong asks what he means. Jay says that he's not good at sneaking around and digging up information. Hong asks why not. Jay says it's because he has no talent for it. Awkward silence befalls the room. Hong does his best to stop his laughter, but lets it out anyway. We see him wiping tears away from his eyes. Jae asks him if he is done laughing. Hong asks what kind of tasks Jae did at ARC. Jae says that he did all sorts of chores, and Hong asks if he ever infiltrated somewhere to gather information. Jae says that was not his job. Hong says that ARC had no clue and puts his hand on Jae's shoulder, saying not to worry. He forgot the name of the place already, Jae tells him. He says whatever, telling Jae to go see what they are about. Jae says he already told him that he can't, and Hong says not to worry, seeing as how he has the kids in the palm of his hand. He should be fine and smiles, saying he's more than capable, but wonders if he'll be okay, saying if he comes into close contact with some people from ARC they might recognize him. Jae says that this is a good reason for him not to go, and Hong smiles, saying surely he has a plan for that. He continues laughing, saying that surely he has somewhere to run and hide if it happens. Jae starts to cook up a weird excuse, saying that he wore a mask when he was in ARC, so not many people know his face in the first place. Hong says there's nothing to worry about, then tells him not to overdo it, just get a feel for it and then leave, and not to take any unnecessary risk. Hong tells him to also get a phone while he's out, asking how he doesn't have a phone at this day and age, saying he must have no social life. Jae tells him he's busy preparing a curriculum, and Hong asks what he means. Jae asks how he plans to teach the kids without a lesson plan. At the very least teach them about the protocols of a raid. Hong nervously sweats, saying that he's not great at explaining things. Jae continues to straight flame Hong indirectly, and Hong says my bad, bro. And then he hauls straight cheeks to the door. Jae says he's not ready yet, and keeps berating him, saying that the principal can't run away. It jumps to the day of the dungeon raid practice. We hear Kaemin asking Jae when he plans to get in touch, and he says after the raid. She says he seems way too relaxed about this, as he is barely even wearing armor. Then tells him to be honest, asking what his rank is, saying if he's an illegal awakener, he must have an idea. He tells her that she's seen his license and he has a D rank. She gets annoyed, saying to tell the truth, and then sighs. She says that's the only way ARC wouldn't be suspicious, and that Misin went through a lot of trouble fabricating his background. Jae asks what kind of person she is to be able to create a whole life for somebody in just a few days. Kaemin says she also asked her once and she was curious, and Misin told her that it was better that she did not know. Jae gets a bit worried. Kaemin messes around with his anklet, asking if he thinks the kids will be okay, and he says that the Daeseon Guild filtered the dungeon beforehand, so if they can't raid this they should quit being hunters. She says that he didn't even make them pick a leader, and he sighs, asking why he would make them pick a leader when only one of them have been into a dungeon before. She says that some of them are still from the guilds. She says that both Han and Yun Wook are not clueless about raids. Jae completely forgot about Yun Wook. She reminds him that he is from a guild. Jae acts like this is new information, saying that he didn't know that the fat pig was a guild slave. He laughs, saying despite being a victim himself, he acted like an ass toward every other normal guild member. She takes his anklet off, saying he's all set, and he thanks her. She cheerfully tells him she'll leave the students in his care. He leaves her on read, and then heads outside. The students turn, and he says that this time he's gonna make sure that Yun Wook doesn't turn into a pig, but rather he'll make him a human instead of an animal. If you've watched till the end, comment butter chicken to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.